I just check that we are? For anybody that might be watching online, we're just having a bit of a Quaker moment while we all sit and reflect. And I'm just checking that we are actually live streaming. If we're not live streaming, I'm just talking to myself. Oh yes, we're definitely up and running. We're waiting for a couple of councillors. One of us councillors attempted to walk here and is struggling a bit, so another councillor's gone to pick him up. I think I can start the meeting and get the procedural stuff out of the way, but currently there are only 2 councillors in the room. Here's David, and here's Chris. Chris, welcome. You can cuddle up in that corner near the radiator if you want. Okay, right, I will formally welcome people to this meeting of Pendle Council's West Craven Area Committee. The agenda that we've got, I am going to take an urgent item, which is the snow and ice and the response of the County Council to the current crisis, and I'll call it a crisis. So I'm going to take that after we've done the planning issues. We've got Paul Meads here from the police, and that will be taken quite earlier on in the agenda, Paul, so you can go off and do better things. We have apologies from councillors Mick Strickland and Tom Whip, who are both working away, one of them in South Yorkshire and the other one in Birmingham, and they're unable to get back for the meeting. I'm not sure I've got any further apologies to one. Okay. We'll quickly do introductions. My name's David Whip. I chair the West Craven Area Committee. I'm a councillor for Ely and Coatswold. Go to my left.
Good evening all. My name is David Walker, Assistant Director for Operational Services and Area Coordinator for the West Craven Committee.
Hi, I'm Neil Watson. I'm Assistant Director for Planning, Building Control and a couple of other services.
Susan Land, Councillor for Ely and Coates.
David Hartley, Councillor for Ely and Coates.
Chris Church, Councillor for Barnildrick.
Paul.
I'm Paul Meads. I'm a neighbourhood officer for Barrowford, but also recently I've been covering the neighbourhood sergeant's role for Pendle, assisting the other sergeant, Rachel Dwayne, who's been stuck on a role for a fair while.
Joanne Eccles, a Committee Administrator at Pendle Council.
Thank you very much, everybody. If I could just ask people to speak up, and then anybody listening online can tell what they're saying. Because we sat quite close together, we talk to each other, but we need to project, and we do have members of the public here as well. The first item is any declarations of interest, and this is where any councillors that have a prejudicial pecuniary interest need to declare it and withdraw from the room discussing that item. Are there any? Nope. Okay. Item 2 is public question time. This is an opportunity for anybody, any members of the public, to raise issues that aren't otherwise on the agenda. Are there any questions from members of the public? No, thank you very much. Item 3 are the minutes of the last meeting. Would somebody move those as a correct record? Moved and seconded over there. Thank you very much. All those in favour? Thank you. I'll just sign them for Joanne. before we forget. Right, that brings us on to police and community safety issues. I didn't know whether anybody was going to come tonight because I'm trying to choose my words carefully. The police have difficulties with staffing, and Paul has very kindly come along from out of our immediate team, which consists of one person as far as I can see. But we can't browbeat Paul because it's not his fault, and I think he's here to be helpful. I think everybody, all the councillors are aware of the issues that we are currently experiencing with, antisocial behaviour, putting it politely, but quite frankly, some people in the town being complete and utter berserkers as far as I can see, and acting in such an awful way. So I think we've got big problems. I think the wider community recognise that there are big problems. There are, to a lesser extent, issues similarly in Earby, but it's out of hand in Barlick. I think if there were people here on the policing issues, that they would be up in arms. We haven't promoted it as a meeting with the police, and it isn't really a meeting with the police. We are hoping to have senior management come to a public meeting to address the concerns. And before I bring Paul in, I'm very grateful that we now have a police and community support officer with Rich Riley. I think he's doing a really good job, but he's one person, and he has started quite a few initiatives, and he does have support of his policing colleagues and beyond. But again, it's limited to what that one person can do. So, Paul, I think the main issue that we are concerned with is that issue of general, well, again, understatement, nuisance, but frankly, completely unacceptable behaviour on the part of a very, very few people.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I say, I cover Barrowford ordinarily in my normal day job before I got the temporary promotion. Rich Riley's just come. He's literally just started. He's a transferee. He's come from Bath, so he does have a bit of a background and he knows what he's doing. So I'm kind of glad to hear he has started a few initiatives up. The ideas that he's had. The issue you've got at the moment is the beat manager, the actual police officer vacancy for Barlick is vacant. It is being advertised, so people will apply and then obviously be put in post. The applications that have gone out are almost divisional wide, so that comes from all the way from Barnoldswick here right out to Blackburn. So the numbers of positions that people will apply for will be for those divisional positions, and they'll just get put into positions where there's the most need. Hopefully Barlick, because you've been without one for a while, will be one of the first. That's the hope. It was looking that potentially I was going to stay in the temporary sergeant role for a while. That's not the case now. Somebody else will be coming. But the good thing there, consistency-wise, I'll still probably stay on as a PC and be super subbed here, there and everywhere. So what I'm looking to do while me and Rachel are sorting stuff out here is helping Rich out by pulling in the beat managers from the other areas. So there's a couple on Cole, there's me at Barrowford, there's some at Briarfield and Nelson. When they're on shift, we're going to put tasks in and task in for them to come over and drop onto Barlick. What I will say, we are aware of the problems in Barlick, and there are reports coming in of antisocial behaviour and stuff like that, which is a difficult thing to tackle because we need people identified and we need to follow up and stuff like that. In relation to Earby is quite underreported. I've gone through the figures today, and I mean, I'm not a particular fan of figures. You can make figures say anything, But on paper, it doesn't seem to have the problem that you guys are telling me today, if it is building up. All I would say, if you want to promote to community to report every single thing either online or via 101, you'd have more success online because then you're not stuck on a phone. We will get the reports, or you can email the neighbourhood team and I'll get the neighbourhood email out to you. That will most likely at the moment come to me. I'll pick that up, so at least I'll know what you're talking about and you guys will know it's being picked up by me and not being ignored. And again, it's then just what we do with the initiative that's Rich's hopefully started up to try and put a stop to everything. And we're starting to look at using more civil orders. The trouble we have with criminality is we have to prove everything beyond a reasonable doubt, which is really difficult, even in big criminal cases. If we start using civil orders and criminal behaviour orders, and as those have been used in the past, I won't go down there, but criminal behaviour orders, we only have to prove stuff on the balance of probability. And it's much more like, has this person most likely done it? Yeah, they have. So it's a lot, I won't say easy, but it's easier to get things home. And with those civil orders, it just gives us an extra little tool to put a stop to that offending behaviour down the road. So I know that's what Rich is looking to do, and that's what we'll try and back him up with. But all I'll say is, keep stuff reporting. It is frustrating. It will be so frustrating that you've not had anybody for so long. Where it's frustrated, me, not as a sergeant but as a PC, it's frustrated because we're so short. My partner's also in the job, she's on a response team, she's short. So I have a really good picture of how stuff's going on. All we need to do now is move forward and put stuff in place to try and tackle it. And hopefully with Rich starting, that's what's gonna start. But yeah, if anybody's got any problems, I'd encourage you to get in touch.
Thank you.
All right.
I think as far as aid is concerned, and I'm trying to choose my words, but I think there's such a loss of confidence in the whole of West Craven that people have given up.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
in Barlick, we've been saying to people, I mean, I've got, sorry, it sounds eyes and ears on the ground. I've got taxi drivers who contact me regularly and frequently to say, this is happening, that is happening, the other's happening. And I'm saying to them, look, please, report it to the police.
Exactly.
I mean, I can do it third party, but I can't in some cases.
This is the trouble we've found, in that the calls will come to you and you're right, we email our team, but sometimes it's 24 hours later that we're getting the stuff.
Yeah.
And it's that busy all the time, we don't necessarily have the time to sit in an area anymore, because there is literally, I promise you, there's emergencies coming in all the time.
Yeah.
So we're literally shooting across, and when weather's like this and stuff, it takes so much time to get everywhere. But if we get that call then and there at the time, then somebody will be deployed to it.
Yeah. Well, I'll put some praise in here. When we did the setup for the Christmas market in Barlick, we were setting market stalls up on Frank Street.
Yeah.
I was just on the square, and one of our team, the town council team, came round and said, oh, somebody's just broken into a property on bottom of Frank Street. So I said, oh, well, I'll do a 999, and yeah, we've just seen somebody, and literally they had broken in, and we didn't know what was going on. Anyway, I'm on the call, we're dispatching an officer, and then one of the business owners came out. This is like 10 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night, whenever it was dark. One of the business owners came out and said, well, oh, it's so-and-so. They've got permission from the owner. The owner lives in South Africa, so, like, is this true, is it not? Anyway, by this time, they're dragging two huge, heavy sacks out of the property, and the 999 lady saying, don't approach them, don't approach them. But the business owner saying, no, it's so and so and so, it's all right. So anyway, we got chatting, and he showed me, and I'd better call in good intent.
Yeah.
By the time we got towards the end of that conversation with the potential perpetrators, the first police officer rocked up, and 5 minutes later there were two further police officers. So I mean, I would say to anybody, if there is an emergency, you know, if there's a crime taking place, or you suspect there's a crime taking place, or there's a risk to, you know, life and limb, you know, 999 it, because, you know, safer rather than sorry. With that example, I'm full of praise for the fact that people rocked up, and the yobbos were elsewhere in the town centre, and when they saw the police vans, you know, they thought, ooh, like that. So, you know, it would have that impact.
Yeah, stuff like that people do often, and we get it all the time. You almost debate with yourself, do I ring 999, do I ring 101? If you're having that debate with yourself, ring 999, because it's obviously to you, it's as serious that you are considering using 999. So use it, because we would rather drive across town and it not be anything than have something ignored, or have somebody worried on their own trying to get through on 101. You know, we get thousands of calls a day. 101 sometimes there's a delay on it. So if a crime is being committed, or you're threatened, or you're that worried that you're considering using 999, use it straight away. Don't hesitate. No Bobby is going to turn up and have a go at you for ringing 999. I can pretty much guarantee it.
Good. Yeah. I'm keep looking across at my colleagues. Susan first. Susan and then David.
Well, we see lots of it where people, obviously Facebook's the main one, and they say, oh, it's a waste of time ringing police, they don't turn up anyway. And I mean, we keep jumping in and saying, look, you have to report it, or they don't know anything's happening and nothing will get done. But trying to get confidence with people for things happening.
Sometimes people will shout on Facebook for Facebook's sake. Ricky Gervais does a really famous sketch about, you know, somebody putting up a poster saying guitar lessons free. Somebody will ring up and say, I don't want guitar lessons, because they just want to shout about something.
Yeah.
And all you can do is exactly what you've done, just encourage people, and then the choice is up to them. And if people want to rant on Facebook, sometimes it's just fashion to rant about the police on Facebook.
Yeah, I get
that's what we need to get away from.
Yeah, I mean, I think there is quite a lot of legitimacy in the criticism, unfortunately. And I speak as somebody that, you know, champions policing.
Yeah.
I was on the police authority for a decade. I'm on the police and crime panel now. You know, policing by consent needs to be based on policing that's actually present. And I think we've been
I would bet my 25-year career that if somebody's rung the police and had a lock created, I can guarantee that there is never a time when nothing is done. Possibly in the past we have never been the best at updating people, but I absolutely guarantee if a log's made, there is never nothing done. It's just sometimes we've been awful at getting back to people, telling people what's been done.
Yeah.
But I can absolutely guarantee there's never a time where nothing's been done.
I think the problem, Paul, is that it's boots on the ground, and that, you know, it's the absence. I mean, we had an instance where, excuse me, the co-op had to shut. I think it was a Friday evening. They had to close early because the co-op car park were full of kids who, you know, it was established by the police officers who did come, that they come over from Skipton, quote, because there wasn't any policing in Barlick. And they'd actually made a beeline for Barlick because there weren't any...
They wouldn't have come from Skipton? Completely different police force?
No, the kids had come from Skipton.
The kids had come from
because there weren't any police in Barlick.
Yeah.
And, you know, it was your colleagues who were feeding that back to us.
Yeah.
But, I mean, in that case, they did, you know, they did find that there were police, and Richard Riley was on the case.
Yeah.
It's all right. I've got David Hartley, then I've got Chris.
Welcome. I've got a few things first. I mean, numbers mean nothing without backup.
And I've said that.
Yeah, we need to know what everything is, so that means nothing, so it's pointless.
It's not pointless, we're asked for it.
But
So
we've been asking for, since I've been on the council, for a report of what the numbers mean.
Right.
And we haven't got.
Would you, like me, sat at a computer, pulling off all the reasons for every single job on there, so you can read it in a piece of paper, Or,
perhaps,
wait, David.
perhaps
Let me
come
finish,
up with something
David,
like
David, let me finish.
No.
Yeah.
Let me finish.
David,
Or would you like me to attend and explain to you any questions that you've got in relation to the figures, which I'm here to do now?
Right, as I say. So, I mean, because I know that what's Councillor Strickland, that's his beef every month.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Paul, it isn't, you know, an explanation of every job on the sheet. It's an understanding of the way things are going. You know, are there any underlying reasons?
Right,
Say
yeah.
we've got car crime.
Yeah.
You know, is the reason for that because we've got travelling criminals coming over from West Yorkshire?
And that's
why. That's the sort of stuff.
That's why I'm here to attend the meeting.
Yeah.
Okay, we've
Yeah.
got 29 assaults.
Sounds a lot.
And is that 29 individual cases or one big fight between...
Right, so that's over the area. The disparity we've got in last month, okay, I can give you 6 of those jobs are actually dog bites that we now have to nationally record, believe it or not, as assaults.
But are they assaults? Are they vicious animals that somebody's been training to fight, or...?
No, they're dog bites, which are dealt with as dogs out of control, and then the dog warden takes the prosecution out of those. So as they read
We
figures
don't have any dog
Yeah,
wardens.
not
Sorry?
We don't have any dog wardens.
No, we do. We have wardens that we go to that take private prosecutions out for us with our dog officers. So the dog officers work with our dog unit and they do the prosecutions and the prosecution files to take it to court.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right, that's news. Good.
Yeah. The other assaults, yeah. Christmas, what we found is Christmas parties. We've had incidents where stuff kicked off at Christmas parties and we've had a number of assaults. And literally with assaults, just to explain it, with national crime reporting now, assaults is on a sliding scale. So you have what we call a section 39 assault or a common assault,
Yeah.
which is your absolute bare minimum. That sliding scale goes all the way ultimately up to murder. But with common assault, a common assault can literally be a touch that isn't wanted. And that's recorded as a common assault. So if you came to me there and said, yeah, he's just pushed me, that would get recorded as a common assault. If that person you had the argument with went, I pushed him because he pushed me, that's another separate assault. So literally, national crime recording is now absolutely everything is recorded, so that there's complete transparency. It may get closed down as no prosecution for evidential difficulties, or because the victim doesn't support prosecution, or there's no named defender, but it still gets recorded so that everything's transparent, whereas in the past it probably hasn't been. Okay, so any increase you've seen from other months is down to that. I've gone through the figures. There's nothing alarming that says we need to watch this. The only thing I've had on Barrowford that I'm keeping an eye on here is the burglaries. You've got residential burglary in Colts, burglary other than a dwelling, which is a business premises, but it could also be a shed. It's something that isn't lived in. And you've got a couple there in Craven. There has potentially been a team coming over from West and North Yorkshire. And we've had one where some property's been traced back and we've recovered it in Bradford. So we've actually got those offenders, so it'd be interesting to see what happens next month if that's put to bed. But yeah, there's nothing I've seen that's causing us a worry thinking that we are going to be hammered in Barnolds this month. Stuff has happened and it's caused the blip or the spike in the figures. It's been acted on and we've had a result from it. We are linking in with Skipton Police, we mentioned over there. We've been over for meetings and we have compared CCTV and stuff, and we've found some of their offenders have been coming over onto us, even as far as Colne. That's something that we're working across force as well. But figures-wise, I know it doesn't give you an explanation of every single job because it'd take far too long, and frankly we're far too busy to sit in front of a computer and go through. All I can cover, and it does take an element of trust, I can come and try and explain anything, and I promise you, if there was any iffy job or anything sus, I'd let you know about it, because we want you guys and your residents to put the extra precautions in as well. But there's nothing that I have any concerns about that I would say, you need to watch this, you need to watch your outhouses. Yeah. You need to, nothing's spiking that okay. I know.
David, anything further?
Yeah. 101 really doesn't work. I reported an incident at a public event on the 8th of August, and they finally got back to me at the end of October.
101 in August.
Yeah.
When you say they got back to you, was 101 answered?
No, it was done by the website.
So it was an online report?
Yeah, online report.
Right, that's right.
Yeah.
Online reporting.
And they did apologise when he rung. It was the local PCO who was leaving at the time, and he just said he was clearing his stuff out, and, but nothing could be done because it was too late. And although they knew about the chap in person,
Right. So that's not the system. That's an individual error.
well, I don't know whether it's the system or not, but 101 certainly doesn't work, and there was no confidence in it.
But that's not 101. That's online
Well,
reporting.
sorry,
Online
online
reporting.
reporting.
But it does, and you've just described an
Yeah.
individual error.
And the other 101 that we rang was all the traffic and chaos in EAB from Gleason's site, blocking the roads, etc., and nobody was sent out.
I went out with my PCSO, actually, and several tickets were issued.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Well, that's good to know, because as far as last
Yeah,
Yeah.
there was no feedback to
no feedback.
Me and Alan Fielding did, and we spoke to the site manager as well. So I know that was done.
Okay, thank you.
Right.
Right.
See,
I'll just bring Susan in, but I've got Chris waiting in the wings.
this is the problem. We don't see police officers for quite a while at meetings, and that's why you're getting a bit of stick now. Which is why we asked for the report. No, we don't want to break down every incident, but just what you said now, that overview.
Did an officer attend this last month or not? Did you not have anybody here last month?
I can't remember last
No.
month.
Three
No,
months
two-
ago.
Not the last two.
Did Richard not?
Two or three. No,
Rich came to the town
Rich couldn't.
Right.
I mean, I said I praised Rich earlier on, and unfortunately I see him far too regularly because of different incidents. And you know, when he's on duty,
Isn't this something that's good then? With that incident that you had to query about, if you've seen Richard so regularly, would it not have made sense just to ask him?
well, but Richard wasn't in post. I mean, we're talking, you know, he's only been here like
Right.
6 weeks, 5 weeks.
But if you've been wondering about that incident for 6 weeks, and you've seen...
Well, I haven't been wondering about it. These guys do, but they don't see Rich
Right.
because
We-
he never ever gets over to Erie because he's always busy in Barley.
Right.
And you know, we ought to have, we should have 2 local police officers and 3 PCSOs. You know, I mean, the establishment will have been whittled down now.
Well,
But, you know, we've had no, and I'm sorry, but you're getting the brunt of this, we've had no local policing officer, no community beat manager for 15 months. I mean, of that order,
Neil Walling?
but no, he's a police community support officer.
Yeah.
I'm talking about a local policing officer, or in old coinage, CBM.
Yeah.
We haven't had a CBM, and then Neil hasn't been around for several months.
Yeah.
We've had a gap when there hasn't been a PCSO, there hasn't been a local policing officer, and as far as people in West Craven are concerned, there has been no policing. Now I know that that's not true, that response police officers and have come over and covered it, and I know that Donna, who lives locally and
Yeah.
she's a PCSO elsewhere in Pendle, I've seen her around, but it's more like visiting rather than being here, and I'll be
It's
positive.
like you've made the wrong turn.
Yeah, right, Richard
You need to
Riley
turn around and go back out.
is good news, but he's one person, and I'm repeating myself from earlier on. You can, Paul, you can feedback how frustrated we are.
Absolutely, but I think some of the frustration was not justified, because I'm aware of what's gone on.
Well, yeah, we just have to.
And the issue of the officers not being in the post, that's going to be
And
chief constable
Yeah.
level, and that's
Yeah.
not something I can sort
No.
out for you here.
well,
All we can do as the neighbourhood team is respond to your concerns.
Right.
And if you've got a direct contact in Rich, you've got my email, you know who Rachel is, you can literally get in touch with us at the press of a button. And what I'm saying is, that's not coming in.
Okay.
That communication is
Right.
not coming in. I'd be happy if it did. And it's no good saying there's this, people shouting on Facebook and there's this and
Right.
we've not had this.
yeah,
Honestly, send us the message.
yeah.
Because
Paul,
it's the press of a
Paul,
button.
because I chair the Community Safety
Yeah.
Partnership. Because I'm on the Police and Crime Panel, I tend to go to Rob Gray, Inspector, or Rick Ogden, Chief Inspector.
Yeah.
I emailed them last week. I said, there's this meeting coming up. You know, the town is up in arms.
Yeah.
Please, can you come? Now, I don't know whether they're both on leave, but I haven't had a response.
This is my point. Rick Ogden is also covering Accrington, Blackburn, Darwin, Great Harwood. He's a chief inspector. He's a divisional chief inspector.
Yeah.
You have the email for the neighbourhood policing sergeant for your area, in charge of the team that covers your area. If you need something, sometimes, as good as it looks to, I'll email the chief inspector or I'll email the superintendent. Come direct to us, because we're the ones on, we're the ones there that can say, right, today we are going to go and do X, Y, and Z.
Paul, with respect, we have never been introduced to our neighbourhood policing sergeant.
Well,
and to be honest, I don't think most councillors until this evening knew the name of the local policing sergeant.
Well, you knew Rachel, didn't you? Because if I've got it on an email.
I might have copied her in on something, I don't know. But it's only recently that I've got it.
We'll have to agree to disagree.
Right, okay. Chris?
Thank you. You've already covered my first point, which was about how very unhelpful it is for people keeping on saying there's no police in Barnoldswick, because, as we've heard, it just drags in people from outside because they think it's a nice place for the crims to hang about. However, just to add to that, coming back to the matter of what you said on assaults, I do understand, I take your point about how much you cannot give a full story behind these stats. You have highlighted the point of assaults, and I take all of that. Is there any way that in future the figure for assaults can be broken down, or that maybe any specific problem ones can be flagged at this point?
I will have a look at it.
Yep.
What I will say to you is, and this is just being completely honest, the system we get the stats from is so complex, and when you're looking on the computer screen, it's literally like playing $1 million bingo, and you're literally going cross-eyed trying to get them. And the more you break down, the more it fills the screen up, because every heading has got a subheading. That subheading's got another subheading. So to completely break it down for everything, it'd be impossible. You'd be flicking between screens all the time. It'd be really difficult. What I will try and do is anything that I deem to be not what you guys would consider an assault, i.e. something serious that you'd really be interested in know about, I will filter that off and let you know what that is. So if it is a dog bite, I'll put it in, it's a dog bite. If it is somebody that's pushed past somebody in a supermarket to pick something off the shelf, I'll let you know that's what it is. And then if there is a more serious assault, I will break down into letting you know whether it's a wounding, whether it's a grievous bodily harm. If we get a grievous bodily harm in, I'll let you know there has been a grievous bodily harm, and I'll break it in down that way if that's more helpful for you.
I would appreciate
you know
it,
what's a common assault, you know what's a wounding, you know if there's been a weapon involved. If something, I'm not saying it would, but if something more serious like that would happen, I'll make sure I highlight it on there for you.
Yeah, the sort of thing that the public in general would use the word assault for.
And what I can say is, if there had been anything this month, I would have let you know that anyway. I mean, if there had been a serious assault or there had been weapons involved or something, I would bring that up as an individual case anyway and let you know it. The fact that it isn't on there, and it does look very basic, shows you that there's nothing massively causing concern.
Okay.
Appreciate that.
Paul, I'm afraid, we have been guilty about shooting the messenger.
It's okay.
Guilty as charged. We are very grateful for you coming tonight.
It's fine.
We appreciate that shouting at you doesn't necessarily encourage you to come to the next meeting. And my suggestion to the committee is we have passed an invitation to the Chief Inspector and to the Inspector, to face the public, because they are as angry or angrier than us, and not as well informed, and there really does need to be an opportunity. And I'll just mention with me hat on as on the police and crime panel, the chief constable actually volunteered to come and see us in West Craven, and I emailed to try and get her office to make an arrangement for her to come over, and you know, I haven't had a response. I'm very disappointed that Sasha isn't actually rocking up, because it's the chief constable that needs to be facing
but
this.
she just becomes a sounding board. And to use an analogy, if your TV breaks at home, you don't ring the bloke that runs Sky, you bring a TV technician. What I'm saying to you is, Sasha will understand that she's policing Lancashire. She isn't going to know the specifics of Barnoldswick. And if you want her here just to vent off at her, that's not the right way to go about it. What we need to do is, as a team now, at this level, with us having specific responsibility for your area, we're the ones that need to solve your problems.
But you can't solve the problem, Paul,
of staffing.
I
absolutely can't.
And what we need to get across to the chief constable, to the divisional commander, you know, to the operations manager, is the fact that there are communities here in West Craven and probably elsewhere as well, who are sick to the back teeth. The confidence is at rock bottom, and you know, there needs to be a change, which means that we have got real police officers, you know, real staff who are on the ground, visible, and seen to be addressing the problems. And we're going to we've run over time for this item, and I do apologise.
No, it's fine.
For having
all I'd say with that is you're running into police crime commission area, funding, and dare I say it, government levels. Rather than the chief constable. Everything unfortunately comes down to money. What I'm saying is, work with me, email me, and let's try and do the best we can with what we've got.
Well, thank you very much.
No problem.
Thank you for your positive.
No problem.
Thank you for your robust defence of the constabulary.
We have to try. They pay my wages, so I've got to give them something.
Lovely.
Well, thanks a lot.
You enjoy the rest of the evening.
See you later. Cheers, guys. Thanks a lot.
Right. Apologies to all the people waiting for the planning issues, but and I didn't get to ask one of the questions I was going to ask, but never mind. So, Joanne, please can we resolve to repeat our request for a senior manager to attend the next meeting, or alternatively a freestanding meeting open to the public where we could address the concerns which, you know, for all Paul's goodwill, we wouldn't be able to deal with. Is that okay? Yeah? Is there anything else that we want to pick up community safety wise? No? Okay. Right. We're going to go on to planning issues now. Have we got Philip Morehouse here? Philip? Yeah? Tim? Sorry, hang on a minute, I'm just checking. Calm down. Tim? Yeah, and Sheila? Yeah, okay. And Martin Willett?
Yes.
Yeah. Good, right. The rules are that you can speak for up to 5 minutes. If there are several people speaking on the same issue, and we just ask you to repeat things sort of that what people have said. Okay. The first planning application I've got is discharge of conditions on the development of Brogden Lane, and I've got 3 speakers, Philip, Tim and Sheila. So Philip, you are first on. And you can speak from there or you can come forward. But project.
Right, well, Graham normally takes the lead on this, but he's out of the country at the minute. We prepared a statement. Grace, my wife, we'll read the statement and then I'll say a couple of words after, if that's all right.
Okay.
Is that okay, yeah?
Well, I've only got one speaker, but go on. Yeah, come on.
We are here once again to ask the committee not to remove Applethwaite's condition number 13 until you have confirmation in writing from them to fulfil the on-site agreement made in September 2024. The committee asked them to sign the 278 agreement and told them that they must install the 2 street lights required in that agreement, as well as providing a footpath. As of today, they have not signed the 278 agreement or put anything in writing to the committee or M&H Developments. Even after you gave them the sweetener of removing the bus stop condition, they are still thumbing their noses at the committee with conditions 4, 9 and 13, still incomplete and without any commitment. By discharging condition 13, the committee will be putting public safety at risk. This alone should prevent the discharge of this condition. Applethwaite have made verbal promises to sign the 278 agreement. They have promised Jason Lancaster of the Highways LCC that they would be putting it in writing within 7 days, which was back in November. Applethwaite have no intention and have made no effort to satisfy condition 13. Whilst the committee are prepared to proceed to enforce conditions 4 and 9, we ask you as a committee to leave condition 13 in place until you have an agreement in writing. A verbal agreement from Applethwaite, based on their track record of promises, is putting public safety and your trust at risk, as it will not be fulfilled. In conclusion, we have provided our land for the footpath free of charge, and should be noted that Applethwaite's planning permission supersedes ours.
Do you want to add anything?
That's touching on the footpath mainly. I just want to touch on the state of the flooding.
Yeah.
Which is that is a safety risk in itself. You know, I've just turned 44. I've lived and farmed up that lane. Lived up there on and off for 40 years, and I've never, the water used to overspill into the field, but with the levels rising now, we've just got a moat, haven't we?
Yeah.
So what I wouldn't want to see is somebody, with heavy rain, somebody needs an ambulance, somebody needs to get, a doctor. You're not getting there, are you? It's already done my sister's car in. Yeah. It's nonsense, really.
Oh, agreed. Sorry, I shouldn't come in agreeing at this point. But I mean, within the last week, and then before Christmas, I sent 2 pictures to the planning manager showing the flooding, and that just underlines the problem.
If they walk from this, somebody's going to have to pick up the bill, aren't they? Because someone will have to be done with it. It's
cutting access.
Okay. Right, we shouldn't get into a dialogue. I'm sorry, I'm going to have to tell myself off. Can I thank you very much for speaking? I'm going to bring Tim in now. Tim.
Okay, so good evening.
You can come forward.
Do you want me to?
Yeah, because I honestly, I'm hard of hearing, so I do prefer it if people are...
Fair enough. So yes, good evening, Chair and Committee again. Repeating many of the points that I made at the previous committee meeting a couple of months ago.
We haven't forgotten.
Yeah, so I will keep it brief. The developer still has not addressed the site levels. So yes, they have been back since that committee meeting. Yes, they have removed some soil from the site, but they have not done anything along the bank, along our boundary whatsoever. I'll correct myself there. They have attempted to put in, I think, a French drain, but that is still above the level of the land that it should be, and the rest of the land is still above that French drain. So even if it drains into the French drain, it still then drains onto our land, which is still now lower than what they put in, whereas what it should be is lower than our site level. They have sent surveyors round last week, so I was wondering whether there was going to be a report for you today, but there isn't. However, watching surveyors, they have not measured thoroughly whatsoever, particularly along our boundary. They've just taken a couple of points along that whole embankment, and that embankment is supposed to be, as I say, at a level sloping away from us. before it then rises up again, and it's just one flat level raised up. So if you do receive any survey reports, it's basically meaningless. There is still no evidence of an attenuation tank, which fits in with what Philip has said in terms of the drainage. Of the approved flood risk management drainage that was being approved by this planning committee was for an attenuation tank to be fitted as well.
We have never approved anything. As a committee, we turned it down. It was approved by an inspector.
Fine. Okay, so not by this committee. I'll take that back. But it's been approved that they were supposed to put in an attenuation tank. They have not done that, so that is a breach of the approved plans. This has been followed up many times with the planning department, asking Julian Barraclough to look into this, and we've never had a response back. So, do we need to take this to the Ombudsman? Is the next question.
I'll let Mr Watson pick that up in a minute.
Indeed. So, the other issue, which I know is not one for you as the committee, is the issue of the fence, which I did raise last time, just to make you aware, in that the developer had broken our fence posts. They have now, after many months of emails back and forth, replaced the fence posts, but they have left loose barbed wire hanging from that fence post, and obviously I've got 2 young children. So it just gives an idea of what the developer is like in terms of actually doing what they asked to do. It took 2 attempts for them to actually put the fence posts in straight. The first attempt, they were off at all sorts of different angles, and they had to come back and do it again. So again, it's just giving you some background as to maybe the standard of care. So my request really is that you're getting accurate measurements in terms of those land levels and enforce that land level as it is on the plans. Get maybe an independent survey if needed, because they're clearly not giving you accurate information if they do provide that survey. And get written and photographic evidence of this attenuation tank if it has been fitted, because none of the residents have ever seen it being put in.
Okay. Just on that, Tim, I mean, I think the attenuation is the pond.
No.
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 Okay.
So if you look at the plans, the original flood risk management plan had an attenuation tank in the northeast corner of the site. Following that getting approved, they then found out they had to have an electricity substation installed. So they then had to apply for that. That was approved because the plan submitted for that doesn't cite the attenuation tank under where the electricity substation is now sited. So that was approved unknowingly that there was supposed to be an attenuation tank there. So they've now built that substation and they don't have the space to now put the size of the attenuation tank.
I'll bring Mr Watson in when Sheila's spoken.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can I thank you very much?
Fine.
Thank you. Sheila. It's a bit like masterminding, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
We should have a spotlight.
Can I possibly hand those out? It just shows my house in relation to the site.
Yeah.
So it gives clarification to what I'm going to say. Okay. Good evening to the committee. I live on Brogden View, Barnold, and my rear garden abuts the field which now houses the Applewhite development. Whilst the bungalows were built in December 2023, my garden and garage flooded after a couple of days of rain. I was convinced that the underground drain that runs from Brogden Lane down to the bottom corner of the field was broken, as I could see water bubbling to the surface and flowing into my garden. Since December 23, I've had many conversations, telephone calls and emails with Julian Barraclough-Gray, the planning manager for Pendle, and also Asa Hardy, who's the site manager for the developer. After protracted negotiations, Julian succeeded in getting Mark Smith from Applewhite to agree to excavating the drain to find out if it was damaged. In October 24, Asa dug up the pipe, only to find it was not damaged, but when he removed a large section from the top of the pipe, it revealed the inside was completely dry. No water flowed through it for some time. I was surprised when Asa then said he was going to attach 2 further pipes to the original and angle them into the attenuation pond. Asa was adamant this would solve the problem. It didn't make any sense as there was no water in the original pipe, so why add 2 further pipes? As the pipe was dry, surely that meant it must be damaged further up the line. Some 3 weeks later, after a couple of days of rain, my garden and garage flooded again. I've been told by the developers that there is no more they can do as they're not responsible for this drain, and that the problem may lie with the raised inspection pit in the bottom corner. But again, they're not responsible for that pipe. They said that neither drain has been touched during the construction of the houses, therefore they could not have damaged any. This is incorrect, as they built a substation and the house over the drain that is now causing flooding problems in my garden. I asked for a CCTV survey to be carried out on the drain, but they've refused. In the document that the LLFA sent in response to the original planning application, it stated they had no objections subject to the inclusion of the following conditions. Item A, details of proposals to collect and mitigate surface water runoff from the development boundary be supplied. Item C, evidence such as a CCTV survey showing the condition of the site culverts and drains to demonstrate that they are free-flowing and in good conditions. Had these conditions been met, then surely it would have highlighted any breaks or blockages. The rainfall at the start of the year caused extremely heavy flooding around the development. Brogden Lane was impassable. The field to the right of the lane was flooded. Also, the field behind the development was underwater. And finally, the attenuation pond was so deep in water that both culverts were submerged. The flooding of the surrounding area was never as bad before the houses were built. And it's been caused by the land being raised for the bungalows to be built. It's sitting like a moat. I'd urge the committee not to discharge Condition 4, site levels, and Condition 9, drainage details, until such time as the developers have addressed and rectified the problem.
Thank you, Sheila. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
I'm just going to ask if the committee members have any questions for any of the speakers. No? Okay. Now, even if you get excited and you think, oh, we shouldn't be saying that, we can't let you back in, because like we open to legal challenge. So we're going to discuss it now. Before I bring Mr. Watson in, I think there's a bit of a misunderstanding in terms of the discharge of condition relating to the highway work, which was the concern from Philip and his good lady. So the condition relating to the highway work is that, and it said prior to the commencement of development, so that's out the window, isn't it? A scheme for the site access and off-site highway works shall be submitted to and approved in writing by the local planning authority. And then the work shall include the following: implemented prior to the first occupation of any dwelling, new footway, new pedestrian build-out on Gisborne Road, scheme of street lighting on Brogden Lane, and upgrade of the bus stop on Greenfield Road, which isn't Greenfield Road, it's Greenfield Lane, but planning inspectors what they know. So we previously accepted that we wouldn't include the bus stop on Greenfield Lane because it's a nonsense. There aren't any buses on there, there never will be any buses on there, and yeah, just waste of money. And that was the sweetener that was referred to, because we're removing the expense of the developers having to do that. But the key bit is they've got to submit a scheme to us. They don't actually have to do the work. The enforcement of doing the work is through the County Council and their 278 agreement. It is 278 for off-site, isn't it? So we need to actually approve that condition with the scheme that they've come forward, so that the County Council can then enforce it. So condition 30, and we had previously agreed that we would discharge that condition, but it's got lost in the drainage issues. So we need to get that condition discharged, so that the County Council can then implement it to make sure that the pavement and the lights are all put in. So I think there's a bit of a misapprehension in terms of condition 13. As for the drainage conditions and the site level condition, we are not being recommended to approve those, and given the details that people have given tonight and our own experience and photographs that I've taken with that phone, we know full well that there is a lot of work to be done, and until that work is done, we will not be discharging those conditions, and we will be demanding that the developers do fulfil what they were actually told to do. And just to reiterate, this committee and Pendle Council has never I'll just take that back a bit. This committee has never agreed to this development. The approval was given by the government planning inspector, and we are sort of stuffed by that. But there are these conditions on that do require them to do the drainage and to do the levels. So we'll just keep on ploughing on with that. Mr. Watson.
Thank you, Chairman. Just one thing before I start, before I answer some of the substantive issues. It's an issue that the MP office discussed, the new MP's office discussed with me before Christmas. There's several of these cases where you've got planning and 278 agreements that aren't marrying in together, and they're just separate pieces of legislation. So I'm going to have a conversation with him directly, just to give our experiences, and he may feed that back because they don't work. But the chairman's absolutely right with this. We need to approve. You can't be compelled to sign a Section 278 agreement. It's under the highways. You can't be compelled to sign it, but you need to sign it in order to do works in the highway. What the condition does is say, right, these are the agreed works. Now we can force them to do that work, which in turn forces them to sign the Section 278. So it's kind of the other way around that you were talking about. We need to approve this in order to serve a notice on them to force them to do the works. Okay. So hopefully that makes sense, and we can do that with split conditions or split determination, as we're recommending here. The planning system doesn't make doing things contrary to conditions or doing development, in fact, without planning permission unlawful as a matter of course. It's one of the pitfalls of it. So developers can do things, and until you take action against that, it's not unlawful. We have tried, or Mr. Barraclough Gray has tried, and the case officer, to move things forward since it was last at committee, but we've got nowhere with them, hence why we're recommending refusal to the conditions. So answer to your concerns, it's these conditions which are supposed to sort all of these drainage issues in, what's coming in and how does it go out and how is it attenuated. That's what precisely these conditions are meant to do. And they should have done that before they got on site. So the process for this will be for committee to decide whether they agree with the recommendations or not. If they do, what do we do from there? And my view will be, if committee agree with it, then we would simply serve breach of condition notices on all three, because they're in breach of all of them, including the highway stuff, because it should have been done before occupation. So we can give them that time frame. Now, the fines aren't huge for that in development terms, but what it does do is put any future sales, etc., in jeopardy, etc., and it does get them in front of a court if they don't comply with those. And you can't appeal a breach of condition notice. Unlike other forms of enforcement, it's straight to court if you don't comply with it. So, Chairman, that will be a further bit of advice here. If you're in agreement with the recommendations, which I think is sound because it clearly doesn't work what's on site, and then serve breach of condition notices thereafter to compel them to do it.
Thank you very much. Chris, with Tom and Mick being absent elsewhere in the country, you are the sole Bonalswick Ward representative here, so I'm going to put you on the spot.
Thank you.
And say, do you agree with what Mr Watson has just said? And are you prepared to move the recommendation?
I agree entirely with that, and I so move, yes.
Very good, thank you very much. Do you want to add anything?
No.
Okay.
I second it.
Susan, right.
Chairman, we'll need one for this, a resolution for
And then
this,
one later on.
For the,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so the enforcement on the stuff that... Yeah.
Well, you can do it immediately after, but you just have to have two separate votes.
Yeah, okay, so we take the vote on discharging condition 13, but refusing to discharge conditions 4 and 9. Yeah?
Yeah.
So it's been moved and seconded. All those in favour, please show. Unanimous, thank you very much. And then, given the failure of the developers to fulfil the conditions, I would propose that we do serve enforcement notices for the failure to do conditions 4, 9 and 13.
Breach of condition notice.
Breach of condition notice. Yeah.
I second.
Yeah, for all
Yeah.
three.
Okay, so all those in favour please show. Thank you very much. I'm afraid if that's gobbledygook, but we've covered the bases, and this is going to put the maximum pressure on the developers to actually sort things out.
A third suggestion.
David?
Yeah, that we just level the site completely.
Well, we do
because
have...
all this should have been done prior to
Yeah.
anybody and
Yeah.
any buildings being done. And I can't understand why it's not been done.
Well, we are in a bit of a cleft stick because we now have residents who have bought their properties, living in those properties, and it is no fault of theirs that the developer has literally landed them in the deep dirty. So we have to be moderate in looking at it, because if we end up not being able to take action against the developers, we end up taking action against the new owners who have done nothing wrong. They've just bought a property on the development that hasn't adhered to planning permission. But the liability potentially will shift, and we end up taking any number of residents to court, and we're not going to do that. So, we need to sort the developers out. So, I sympathise with what you're saying, but it ain't going to happen. And I would reassure residents that it ain't going to happen. Yeah. Okay, I think we've dealt with that one. If anybody wants any pictures of the flooding, I've got copious pictures of the flooding on my phone. We're going to come on to flooding in a bit, and Brogden Lane is going to feature in that. Right. Moving on, we're going to go to Tilbrook Road, Salterfirth, and I do have Martin here to speak. So, Martin, if anybody, from Brogden Lane area wants to, Brogden View, if you want to leave, feel free. Martin, do you want to come and take the mastermind chair? Thank you. I can't remember what the music is. It's dramatic, isn't it?
Good evening. My name is Martin Wellick. I'm pleased to be here, and my application is in front of the committee for approval, hopefully. We bought the field back in May. It was a bit of a family project. My son's left school last year. He's pursuing a career in agriculture. He's actually at Minescore College as we speak. And he has a small portfolio of sheep that he's bought himself that he has on rented land at the minute. So part of this is to kind of help him on his way a little bit. Also, my wife is a part-time dog trainer that she's been doing for 8 years and is very successful at, and her business is progressing all the time. So she's having to rent different areas, i.e. dog days at Kelbrook and one thing and another. So it's also to help her in her business and what she's doing, which is a good thing for the community, I think, and helps a lot of people with dogs. Dogs seem to be becoming very popular these days. As regards, I've carried some work out already, rightly or wrongly, but me being me, I'm very eager to do things and tidy things up, and the field I haven't had a lot done with it for a long time, so I've trimmed edges and put new fences up, and I've also tidied the entrance up and done some work there, which I maybe should not have done, but I was trying to just, me being eager and excited in what I have done. As soon as I realised I shouldn't have done, I stopped work. I have got to, I've been advised to sign up to a 278 works agreement, which I'm all up for. That's no problem. We can, you know, if it gets past tonight, we'll do that. I'm all up for that. I'm all up for it being done properly. The highways don't really have any issues with the traffic and the safety issues. There's good vision and everything on the entrance. So as regards doing the work, curving it, tarmacking it, porous tarmac, I'm all up for that. I just want it to look nice and be tidy, and you know, I don't want my land to be a mess. So, you know, the highways, like I say, I haven't had any safety issues or objections with it. So, yeah, that's about where we are, I think.
Thank you very much. Okay. Well, you've got no passes. Yeah. Right. Martin, thank you. Are there any questions for Martin? No. If you want to take your seat.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. On this one, I am aware that there's been fatalities on the road there, and there's been shunts where people have been turning off, you know, sort of either into, you know, one or other of the accesses. So my concern, obviously it's not shared by the Highway Authority of the County Council, is about the highway safety, and I appreciate the visibility is good, but that hasn't prevented crashes in the past, because it is a relatively fast road, even though it now has a 50-mile-an-hour limit. So I would just ask Mr. Watson, in terms of that highway safety issue, and I don't think there are any other, I don't have any other concerns, but in terms of the highway safety issue, what are the county councils saying, and you know, is that a problem that we ought to be thinking about?
Chairman, the county aren't objecting to this. Effectively, the main issue is the visibility displays out of there, because of the speed of traffic at 50 miles an hour, and provided you can get full visibility, you can 160 metres there, you can achieve that. The 278 works will include the signage, etc., which we went on the other item. They will require those kind of issues to be dealt with as part of those, provided that the visibility displays are right and it's tarmacked and has a proper bound surface, then There are no other impediments. I understand about the shunts there, but it is an open highway. There's no bends or it's not up and down. There's no poor horizontal alignment. It's the speed, really, which is the biggest thing on that stretch of road. But provided you can see and more importantly see out, so you're not pulling out, and you can get that visibility there, then there's no design defects that would suggest that it's a dangerous access.
Yeah. It's not the access or the egress that I'm concerned about. Right, so you've got people, I mean the shunts have been where people have been turning off and crossing a carriageway. So say you're coming from the Kelbrook direction, you're turning into the access, you're slowing down, you're stopping in the middle of the road in order to execute that turn. And the previous shunts have been people doing that manoeuvre to go into the caravan park, which is on the opposite side of the road. And that raises another issue, that there is an intensification of use of the caravan park, and the County Council are questioning whether all the vehicular movement to the caravan park are acceptable, and they raised those issues on the last application that we had, which no doubt will be going to appeal. So it's all those things. I'm not necessarily against the development. I just think there's a concern at the back of my mind, having seen collisions on there and knowing that people have died. Are we allowing something that could make that situation worse? And I remember when there was an awful accident record on Kelbrook Road, and we did a lot of work over a lot of years to get that collisions down and that accident rate down. I don't want now to be doing something that makes it worse. But if you're telling me the County Council think it's hunky-dory.
Chairman, accidents occurs when traffic does unexpected things, like when you're pulling in and then you stop, so you can't get in and you can't pull off. It says in here that the access has been widened to 5 metres so you can get 2 vehicles together. So one of the dangers might be a car coming out and then one that's pulling in has to stop. That's then your rear end shunts. If it's 5 metres wide, you should be able, well, it's wide enough because standard carriageways are 5 metres wide, to get the vehicle in and out at the same time, unless it's a big vehicle, obviously.
Neil, I don't think that's an issue. I think the access proposed is wide enough.
Sure.
On the face of it, it should be wide enough for vehicles to pass each other. But the reality is that we get traffic coming down either direction, but bombing on there, and there's somebody turning across a carriageway, and somebody's going, like a bat out of hell. They might be overtaking the right turning vehicle, or they're rear-ending them because they're just not appreciating, because we've got drivers who do not drive to the conditions and appropriately. So that's my fear. If we've got no, sort of county council objections, I'll say fine, fair enough. But I think, I'm just welcome views from other people, really. Susan?
I think it's an absolute great idea, this. Yep. My only issue with the access and things like that is the lighting. Because they're horrendous when it's dark to swing in and out of places and swinging in and finding them. I find it difficult. But, I drove down there tonight and seeing where the caravan site is horrendous.
It would never be used.
No, hang on, I'm sorry, we can't bring in. Sorry.
But that was my only thought on the on the thing. But with what's happening there, then it's not going to be used in the dark anyway, so that shouldn't be an issue.
Okay, David.
I also think it's a great idea. All for it. Is there any chance that we could extend the 30 mile an hour zone out of Saltyford in order, or nothing? Or
No.
even get some cameras up, because one of the cameras that's, complaints we do have from people from Saltyford is that they totally disregard the speed
Going through the 30?
going through the
Yes.
30.
Yeah.
You know, which shouldn't really affect these guys who are trying to do something really good for the
Yeah.
area and for
Yeah.
themselves and from the family, which is to be applauded.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
I'm not decrying that at
Yeah.
all. I'm just, you know,
yeah.
putting a marker up that I think there's a potential issue. Could I ask Neil about the requirements with the 278? So, you know, how will right-turning vehicles, sorry if I can call them that, you know, crossing the carriageway, how will they be dealt with? It is quite a wide road, you know, is there going to be a lane for right-turning vehicles? Is it going to be hatched off? You know, is there anything, like Susan was saying, to signify where the turn-off is?
The honest answer, Chairman, is I don't know. I would have thought it would be subject to a safety audit, but I can't. I don't want to lie to the committee. I just don't know.
Okay.
What it would be subject to.
Would, I mean, I'm looking over at the applicants, you can shake your heads or nod or whatever. Could we explore this with the county council to see whether, you know, the right turners could be accommodated in a lane? Just, pardon?
Can I have an hour speak?
Well, you can't really, so that's why we're saying nod or shake, but go on.
Yes, by all means.
Yeah. So, because I think it's a good thing to do. Could we defer it, ask the county council about right-turning vehicles? Are we content to do that? No, there's two people shaking their heads. So I mean, I think safety is paramount, and I don't want us to make a mistake with this. If we can make it safer, we should. And I have seen people die on there.
I think if it's a yes or no for the application, then we should. That's all.
Well, I'm suggesting we defer
Yeah.
in order to ask the county council about the way in which the right-turning vehicles will be accommodated. You know, are they just going to leave it that, you know, there's a centre line and people are stopped in the carriageway, or are they going to put a proper right-turning lane in so that the effective carriageway width is narrowed down, which would slow vehicles? Because, I mean, I drive on there at 50 mile an hour and I've got people overtaking me.
Yeah.
And it's a 50 mile an hour road.
It's a drag strip.
Well,
It's a natural drag strip.
yeah,
Everybody uses it as that.
right.
I don't.
Um, so, Chris.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anything that will either improve safety or will eliminate any questions about safety on any part of that road, yes, we should look into
Okay.
it.
Well, I would move then that we defer it, the discussions with the county council, to assess the safety of right-turning vehicles.
What about the caravan park though? They haven't had to do anything.
Well, but they might have to.
The
They might
things I
have to.
rent at the moment
They might have
is
to.
exactly the same.
Double days is exactly
Dog
the
days
same.
is on a 60
Not allowed
mile
to
an
spend.
hour road. Sorry.
Right. This is why, you know, we don't get into a dialogue afterwards. But what I mentioned earlier on is that the caravan park have a further application and the county council are saying that the existing circumstances aren't, possibly aren't adequate, and they want to review it. So it seems a bit daft to me that, you know, if they then have to put a right turning lane in for their vehicles going in, you know, in my mind, the sensible thing would be to do the two things together. So you've got a centre line hatching, and you've got right turning vehicles go to the caravan park, and you've got right turning vehicles able to go into the car park for the dog exercise field. That's me thinking, you know, like trying to put two and two together. Susan?
Well, that would make sense for the safety of the people ascending the dog training area as well. So that makes sense, and decent signage as well.
Yeah.
Also helps,
Yeah.
so that it's clear that there is an entrance into there.
Okay.
That it's visible.
Right. Right. Well, I would propose we defer it, see what the county council says. The county council come back and say, you know, we're not bothered. Well, fair enough, be it on their heads. But I think that's what we should do. Is that seconded?
I second.
Right. That's moved and seconded. Anything further? Those in favour, please show. Right. Anybody against? Right. Okay. So we've deferred it. Hopefully the county council will come back pretty quickly, and we'll be able to make a decision at the next meeting, which is on?
It's in the first week of February, first Tuesday.
First Tuesday in February.
Can I speak?
Yeah. You can, we've finished with the item.
Do you refer to the county council now, or do I have to do that?
Well, Mr Watson will get on, but there'll be a three-way dialogue.
Okay.
So, you know, you be involved in the conversation so that we can find... And just referring to the caravan park, I don't know whether they've actually put an appeal in against the last refusal, but, you know, there's a dimension with that. I don't want to overcomplicate matters, but I think the county council need to be aware.
It's not registered, but it is appealed.
Yeah. It isn't registered, but there is an appeal in for the caravan park. So they want to do several more plots, like quite a few more
The
plots.
maximum number of cars is very minimal.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
one person at a time,
Yeah.
once
Right.
a day, twice a day.
We're going to have to move on, I'm afraid. I understand what you said.
It is on the 4th of February.
4th of
It's
February.
at Saltford Village Hall, that one.
Okay.
Thank you ever so much for coming along.
Thank you.
Thank you. Right. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Right. Item 5B is appeals. Can we just note that one? So hang on, I'm going to ask a question on it. Neil,
Yeah.
what is the problem with this sycamore tree? Why did we refuse it? And is it ever going to get resolved? Because it's been on these sheets
A long time.
for a long time.
Yeah, I don't know the full details of it, but it's normally that they don't have an inspector who's got the qualifications. That's normally why things happen.
Could we, right, outside the meeting, can you let me have some information about?
I don't know.
I know,
that's
I know.
wrong, but yeah, I certainly can. Yeah.
Okay, I mean, it just seems that we might be being a bit unreasonable, I don't know. It's not something that's come before committee.
So I always thought that the sycamore was a weed anyway,
Well,
and it shouldn't really go on the TPO sort of thing.
But there is.
From an arboreal
Yeah.
consultant, that was.
Yeah. Right. Let's make some inquiries outside the meeting, and then we might suggest to the applicants that they resubmit or something like that. More than one way to skin a cat. Item 6 is enforcement action. Oh dear. So former Wardle Story offices, agent to be contacted for an update, and developer is waiting for stakeholders to respond. Neil, have we got any?
Chairman, that's inaccurate. we had a meeting with Emma et al. Before Christmas, and we will be re-prosecuting, so I should say that's in train. Julian's been on holiday for a month. Yeah, he's stacked his holidays up. He goes back to South Africa. So instructions will be given. It's just a straightforward further prosecution.
Okay, thank you very much. And then another hardy, well, perennial, never mind, annual. So, land at the junction of Greenfield Lane. Now, this becomes to be compounded because I think some of the residents are now wanting to do something different with their boundaries, and it's the residents wanting to do it who are now the landowners, and it's an unholy mess, literally and figuratively. So again, outside the meeting, I think we need to get a feel for how we're going to go forward with this, because it goes back to the Lancashire County Council failure to enforce the highway land issue with United Utilities. So we've got this third party land which is like an island, and well, we knew it was unsatisfactory when there was a plan application, but because it went to an appeal inspector, we weren't able to sort of resolve things, and the developers obviously are well, their company, they're attempting to liquidate it, and it's only because we've prosecuted one of the directors that we can, you know, sort of the personal liability. They're trying to walk away from this. They're leaving the residents in the lurch because there's supposed to be a management company set up to look after the public areas and the whole stuff. It's a mess.
Chairman, if residents want to do something different about the perimeter fencing, we have got a court date, so I mean that doesn't affect the residents, but it will. Clearly, we're asking the developers to adhere to the approved scheme. So just want to let that run and see where we go with it from there.
I think we can proceed with the court action, but I think we need to sit down and see what the outcome we can achieve is really. Is that okay with folk? Yeah.
The last one, we've got an application in. Yeah, we've got an application in for that.
Okay.
To discharge the condition now.
Right. Very good. Can we move on then to the urgent item, which is regarding winter maintenance, the response to snow and ice, and my big disappointment is that the County Council never seem to learn. Regularly we have periods when you get snow and ice like we've got, and it's like the County Council have to go through the process of not getting contractors in until like we're 3 or 4 days into the job, and then all of a sudden they're sort of trying to get the contractors to come and clear snow and ice and all that sort of stuff. But this time round it's been horrendous, where and David, Mr. Walker here, knows better than most, because he deals with it from a Pendle perspective. But like the other day, I was trying to get the County Council to come and deal with the ice on pavements in Barlick and Avey, and on their County Council website it proudly boasts that the County Council have 50 hand gritters for use on pavements. Well, how many of those gritters have we seen? Absolutely none. And then I'm putting pressure on David Walker to come and do the car parks, and then David sort of emails me, or I don't know whether we were speaking, but David says, oh, County Council have asked us to come and do pavements. And I'm thinking, you know, what on earth is going on? And it's mutual aid where Pendle Council, you know, sort of helps Lancashire County Council fulfil its obligations, but it's always, you know, County Council take, and Pendle Council are expected to give. So we get flooding. You know, how many County Council officers do we see dealing with flooding, despite the fact that it's their primary responsibility? None. How many people are rocking up, clearing snow and ice off pavements? Well, this morning there were 5 Pendle Council staff and me doing the pavements. A County Council wagon came along with 2 people in it, a load of grit on the back and a wheelbarrow. I thought they might have been filling grit bins, but according to Mr Walker, when he looked into it, they were due to be clearing pavements on Frank Street. They went straight past Frank Street, had a word with Mr Walker's staff, beggared off, never to be seen again. So, primary responsibility with the County Council, Pendle Council giving mutual aid and struggling because we don't have the equipment, and you know, County Council just walk away from it. We've got Coates Lane School, which is on a route that has been ploughed and gritted, but the snow plough has gone up, dumped all the snow on the pavement, show you the pictures if you want. They can't open the school because the only way for the kids to get to school is to walk in the single carriageway of cleared road that is accessible. Gets onto the County Council. Well, I can't remember when I did it, this morning, early on. Went to check before it got dark. Just a pile of snow on pavement, not been touched. Nobody's been near it. No doubt tomorrow morning, David, they'll be getting in touch with you and saying, oh, could Pendle go and clear that pavement? Well, I'm sorry, but it's just not good enough. And I think, you know, the County Council ought to be dealing with the problems that they're supposed to deal with. And as far as Pendle Council is concerned, I'll be saying that we should pull out of this mutual aid because it isn't mutual aid. What it is Lancashire County Council shirking its responsibilities, putting them onto Pendle Council at considerable cost, and then, you know, Pendle Council is getting reputational damage because people think Pendle Council would be doing it. Well, I'd like to see the job done myself. So I think, you know, this issue of priority pavements, the schools, you know, and access to the schools, the school not the school accesses. You've got Church School up here off Talbot Road. The ramp up to Talbot Road is lethal. It's like a ski slope. You know, parents should not be going up it. Mick Strickland asked if we could highlight the problem of the access to fire stations, where the firefighters have cleared their yard and the immediate bit, but, you know, has there been a gritted down Jago Road? Nope. You know, has Wellhouse Road been done? Don't think so. And so, you know, the fire engines are so one struggling to get out. Was it this morning? Yesterday morning. So there's all sorts of issues, one on top of another. And so, I mean, I want us to pass a resolution that, you know, ask the County Council, you know, to actually pay some attention to our neck of the woods. And then, you know, I'm serious about this mutual aid thing. I want to refer the mutual aid question to the executive for them to consider whether we should, you know, sort of tell the County Council to stick it. Susan.
Is this cost reimbursed to Pendle Council?
David. Do you want to just give an overview of the position as you see it, David?
Thank you, Chair.
And we have been in frequent communication with each other.
The mutual aid agreement, Chair, and members, is far wider than the winter maintenance activities, and it covers emergency planning and other things where we may have to work with other agencies and other boroughs. So it's that mutual aid agreement is a county-wide agreement between districts and the county council, saying that we will help each other if needed and resources are available. The agreement with the county council highways for gritting comes about. We release staff if we have staff available to release to support the county council in its function of treatment of the public highway. As the chair says, we're probably not in a position equipment-wise to fully support the county council in its activity, but we do our best endeavours. In return for our support, we receive stockpile of rock salt. That rock salt is for use on public highway, though we do get the benefit of having that rock salt here. And I suppose that's the benefit that we get out of the agreement, that salt in a way does help us in other areas.
So the county council give Pendle some grit that they then ask Pendle Council to put on the pavements or the roads that they are responsible for.
That is correct.
Using
Oh, that is a
staff.
really good deal.
Using Pendle staff who were paid by Pendle.
To do like
is.
a shop.
It
Yeah.
is using Pendle staff that are paid by Pendle, but they would be using Pendle staff that would in effect be either dragging wheel bins or doing other things, because we would suspend street cleansing activities. We would probably move those staff as we do want to, doing our car parks and various other things, and it's those staff that we use to support the county council in its function.
Yeah. So the jobs aren't getting done.
So, but they can't do the street sweeping, yeah. So are we happy, Mr Walker, that all the car parks have been adequately cleared and gritted?
No, because we have the same issues, don't we, Chair, as you well know. We don't have the equipment, same as the county council, to plough and grit. We have treated our land and our car parks to the best, as I said, and as our endeavours. We will continue to treat them over the coming days and bad weather. So.
Okay. So the mutual aid doesn't extend to the county council running a plough around a car park, so that it's, you know, people can park on it rather than parking on the road and blocking the road up?
No, it doesn't.
But it also doesn't extend to running into Erie. I mean, thank God for North Yorkshire for coming down the hill into Erie and clearing Erie, because Lancashire County Council stopped at Fulbridge and turned around and went home.
I think that is another issue that we need to list in our resolution. You know,
and there's certainly no car parks in Erie that have been done.
So the issue with the gritter is that North Yorkshire gritted down to Erie, down Wiswick, and Lancashire County Council, it is reported, turned around and did not. So I think there's a very big question as to, you know, were they in dereliction of the duty in not doing it, and then North Yorkshire is not mutual aid, again, give, rather than, you know, sort of Lancashire actually, you know, doing what they should be doing. Any further points?
Would it be advisable to get our rural Pendle councillors who represent us in Lancashire to come and answer questions about what they are doing, as far request them to come to the next council meeting?
Yeah, we can ask. They've been notable by the complete absence from any action that I can see. And no doubt they've been making representations, but there's been no visible presence, and, you know, the complaints have flowed in our direction. and they're just keeping their head down, perhaps burying their head in the sand or the grit. Yeah, anything further? Secondary routes, there has been some gritting on secondary. So they've got primary routes which are done, you know, on a precautionary basis, and then there's the secondary routes which are only done during the day and through prolonged periods of snow and ice. They have done some, and I'm, you know, give them credit for that. Because I mean, the staff themselves, the people who are doing the job, are doing a cracking job, and you know, the immediate management are doing a cracking job. But the system is just completely care-eyed. Susan.
I've seen a lot of complaints about grit bins as
Oh,
well.
grit bins, yeah. Yeah.
You know, and not those that are there not having any grit in, which is useless.
Yeah, yeah. And coming back to the point I was making earlier on, really they ought to have you know, the ability to call in contractors. There are loads of construction companies, civil engineering companies that are at a standstill because of the weather, and all it needs is for County Councillor Rupert Swarbrick to pick the phone up and say, please can, you know, your staff come and do it. They've got the equipment, they've got the loading shovels, they've got, you know, the machines that they can do it. You know, even a back actor can do a car park if need be. And they've got the staff, and they're not being able to work. So, you know, they ought to be pulling the contractors from the get-go, not leaving it a week and then thinking, oh, we could get some contractors to come and do it. You know, and filling the grit bins. You know, that's not a sophisticated job. You know, give them a list, give them a wagon and a load of sand, a load of grit, a few, you know, shovels. Bingo. You could even mechanise it, but that probably would be a step too far. Anything further? No, I think we're just expressing our grave disappointment, Joanne, if we can put that phrase in, at the inadequate winter maintenance being carried out by Lancashire County Council, and then we could bullet point those particular issues. Are we content to leave it at that? Yeah? Oh, are we all agreed? Thank you very much. Right. Moving swiftly on, Area Committee budget, I forget just how much there is left in the budget, but it's for the Bonalswick Township, so it's the Bonalswick ward and the courts, bit of Evian courts, which is in Barlick. So the Town Council has asked for funds for events and public realm work and the like. Could I move that we agree to give the Town Council the remaining funds in the budget?
I second.
Seconded? Yeah. Okay.
In all of the budget, sorry.
No, it's Bonalswick and Court. Yeah. It's in 15,000, but you know, it's what we've got left. We need to use that funding before we get to the end of the meeting, end of the financial year. Sorry. We've got a deallocation. Sorry, thank you, David. That's good of you. So, Bonalswick Interchange Public Realm Scheme. I don't agree with that being deallocated because there is an outstanding piece of work yet, and that's the interpretation board for Old Gormless. So that one, underspending £30.70 from the CCTV camera at West Coast Road. I'm more than happy to do that. Have we actually used it yet? Have we got anybody prosecuted yet?
Not got anybody prosecuted them, but they are located and
very good.
in the area.
Lovely. I won't mention that there's a load of litter dumped on that.
Well, they've gone camera.
All right. Did you catch anybody having a crap? Sorry. Because I found human waste in those bushes. probably from a lorry driver. Okay, are we happy to deallocate £30.70? Yes.
Yeah.
And note all the rest of it?
Yeah.
Yep. Thank you very much. Item 8, the traffic liaison meeting, and just flicking through this very quickly. I don't think there's anything on the first page. The second page, there's the issue of the side street in Airby, which has been trundling around for the last 4 years, which is now awaiting legal sealing, so that will come into effect. And then if we go into the narrative, we have got Station Road, Bonalwick parking restrictions. So this is where there's a bus clearway, and the County Council issued a penalty charge notice for a bus which was stopped in the bus clearway, and the County Council, another bit of it, has agreed to pay the fine. So the County Council is paying the fine to the County Council, and the suggestion is that they make part of the bus clearway a bus stand.
Yeah.
So all this is under discussion, and then Lancashire County Council come along and remark all the road markings, you know, in advance of changing the orders, you know, and you know, just brick walls. I suggested to Scott that the disabled parking bay, which is close to the Civic Hall, could do with moving, and they could actually have 2 next to the top of the car park, and the one with the next to the Civic Hall, the problem is that it blocks traffic when the buses are pulled in. So I think that needs to be sorted out, and the suggestion, it says that Councillor Whip, if the bay is needed, my response to that was that they should move the disabled parking bay in front of the car park. Would committee agree with that? Yeah? All right. Airby Road at Salterford. So the meeting agreed that Lancashire County Council should proceed with adding 20 metres of parking restrictions on both sides, and conduct a second informal consultation. We never ever seem to get any of these informal consultations. I'm not sure who they're carrying them out with, but could we ask that the area committee is included in all these informal consultations? Excuse me. I think that's it actually. So, are we agreed on that? Is anything further? No? Right, moving swiftly on. Item 9, Royal Mail. We were expecting a manager from Royal Mail, but he hasn't delivered. So, we're going to defer this one. Yeah? Item 10, public space protection orders. Right, well, Councillor Tomwick was doing a bit of work on this and he's not here. Could I suggest that we agree to extend the current PSBOs on a temporary basis, that we formally ask both Airby and Bonalwick to submit their suggestions how they want to be done, and that on receipt of those requests the PSBOs are reconsidered and reconsulted on and amended as appropriate. So unfortunately it's just going to drag on and on, is this?
Mm-hmm.
Is that alright? Susan?
The one that's in force in Newbury, lots of people take absolutely no notice of it anyway.
Well,
The fences are always down, and so every time when I go past, and I get a bit miffed really, the fact that I've only got the muddy bit at the top,
okay.
and see all these people that are in there with this one lady brings her agility equipment
Into,
and sets that up
on the rack?
rack. Yeah.
right, okay.
in
Well, that would be up to Irby Town Council to deal with, because they own the land.
yeah.
Could I suggest that we, and as far as the fencing is concerned, that we ask Irby Town Council if they could put the fencing in good order and keep it in good order? Yeah? We can't do all to it.
No.
Yeah? Are we agreed on that? Yeah? Everybody's showing extreme enthusiasm. I am trying to get through this as quickly as we can.
Yeah.
Right, item 11 is a report back on youth provision. County Councillor Mike Goulthorpe is saying that the County Council haven't got any money. They're not going to put people onto providing youth activities. If anybody wants to use New Road Community Centre, they're welcome to it, but it'll have to be volunteers, and they're not putting any money in, full stop. I paraphrase, but essentially that's what he said, Susan?
It is, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And-
exactly what it said. And Tim's hoarsely similar.
Yeah,
There
so,
wasn't any money.
in, you know, referring back to what we were talking about earlier on with kids running amok, you know, this is the other side of the coin, where if there was some proper positive activities for youngsters to do, I think we'd have far less problems. So it's such a shame that County Council aren't actually willing to put some effort and funding into addressing the problem.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're noting that with regret. Yeah.
Yes.
Item 12, Irby flood alleviation feasibility study, and there is a report with an incomprehensible Gantt chart that just tells you essentially the different processes that we've got to go through, and the significant bits on the Gantt chart is these gateway reviews. So where there's a black line across, that is a go-no-go point. So if in the early stages they find that you know, the hydraulic model or the baseline environmental survey or the ground conditions don't lend themselves to the solution that we're looking at, then it won't go any further. So there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, you know, there are 7 gateways to get through, but I am eternally optimistic that we will be able to get some upstream storage to relieve the risk of flooding on Water Street, and given the anxiety at on, you know, New Year's Eve, and I was up middle at night, you know, checking the bet levels and everything like that. The other thing that illustrated was that the community flood resilience group is next to non-existent now. Susan?
Pete went round 3 times that evening, checking just to make sure everything was okay. And he said trying to liaise with anybody else was just impossible.
Yeah, yeah.
Like the other people in, you know, that are the flood, supposed to be flood warners in that group.
So
it was a nightmare for him.
my suggestion would be that we ask for a report on that, you know, sort of flood warning community response thing.
On that?
David?
Yeah. sorry, so, we have sandbags at the back of the shop for this thing. When were they last replaced? I mean, this is what, you know, when it comes to using them, are these going to, I know I've had sandbags in the army that you just split, you pick them up the split, so they could be useless because they've just been sat there. I think we need to get new sandbags in.
Well, yes, and there's a container that should have sandbags in it on the New Road Community Centre car park, and as far as I'm aware it is empty. So people get on to me and say, you know, from Aby, and they say, where can we get some sandbags? And I say, well, contact Aby Town Council because they control those. But people then come back to me and say, well, we can't get Aby Town Council. So I say, well, come over to Barlick and I'll give you some. And I have, you know, sorry.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we've been on Water Street and Beckside. The little cut, there's my house and my business on Water Street.
Yeah.
We've got 2 properties.
Yeah.
But,
Riverside Tourists, I think you're fine.
Yeah, well, we're that far up. But anyway.
But Water Street, I mean, there is a real risk. You know, if we get a bad incident, then
We were lucky really because it was all, when I walked round it was all running clear. If there'd have been anything come down the river and stuck underneath the bridges, we would have been in a mess.
Yeah, well, it's not only luck because I think we have done a huge amount of work since 2015.
I've also reported on the Water Street, the Riverside Terrace, there are trees that are growing out of the wall that are only held there, they're not actually in anything. And the last one that we reported was actually, they cut the tree down in Cavan and Brox, bought the New Road Bridge, but they cut the tree away, but left all the roots in a 10-foot swath, and very shortly the other tree that was there is going to come down, which we have pointed out. I think somebody may have contacted you about it as well, Joe from Riverside House.
Yes, I've spoken to her previously.
Well, we reported one below Valley Gardens that had come down, but they did come away. But they leave all the bits. They don't take it away.
Right. Okay, so
they did come and, you know,
they
get it out to the water and everything.
No, they were there straight away. I can't knock them that way, but they only took it down like 6 inches above where on the stump level, and then the stump and everything else was left in the water.
Right. Can I suggest that we resolve firstly to ask for regular monitoring reports, you know, based on these gateways, and there are regular meetings set up. Secondly, that we ask for a review, as I mentioned, about the flood wardens and the community flood scheme. Thirdly, that as part of that, we ask Aby Town Council about sandbag provision and access to sandbags. In Barley, the container is always open, and you know, people can come and help themselves. In Aby, they're all locked away, and you can never get anybody to get a key to get in, or whatever. And then, fourthly, that we ask the Environment Agency to visit to look at the bet walls and the vegetation with a view to resolving any outstanding issues that may be. Yeah. Is there anything further on that flooding issue? No? Can we agree that? Yeah, thank you. Right, item 13, unlucky for some. Access to dentistry. Sorry, I can't say this one because I've got a broken tooth. Access to dentistry services in Aby, and this follows a plea for people being unable to get into the dentist. Previously, we have made representations. I think it's to the ICB now, but I'm looking at Joanne. She might know.
LSC Integrated Care Board.
Integrated Care Board, that's it. Yeah, so if we can take that up with them, yeah? Are we happy to do that? We'll have a report to a future meeting. Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, good, lovely. B, to consider access and parking issues in the vicinity of St Andrew's House, which is over the road, occupied by residents with disabilities, most of whom are confined to wheelchairs. There's an issue with people parking very close to the access, so they can't get the patient transport in, or they can't get an ambulance in, or they can't get a minibus in, to be able to get that sorted out. So it's twofold. First of all, St Andrew's House is asking, could the County Council put some yellow lines down? I've advised them on that, but I said we'd support it. And secondly, bit of a request to see if they could get a disabled parking bay for the minibus that takes the residents from time to time. So I think it would be a case of us asking Lancashire County Council if they would do that. So, yeah, okay. Item C, to consider various flooding issues across West Craven following heavy rainfall recently. I think we collectively have sent in probably 8, 9 or 10 locations where there are flooding issues. The emails that we've sent to the County Council sort of detailed what the action that we thought should be taken. We've also contacted North Yorkshire for them to do stuff as well. So rather than go through that blow by blow at this point, I think if we resolved to confirm the representations made by the chair on behalf of us all, and that we ask for a comprehensive report with a response from the County Council to the earliest possible meeting. Yeah?
Yes.
And obviously part of that is Brogden Lane, which, quite. Right. D, to consider problems with street lights being out for months due to electric supply failures in West Craven. This applies to Dale Street and Alder Hill Street in Earby, Back Hollins Road in Barlick, and as far as I can see, the issues are Northern Power Grid supplies failing and not being repaired. In addition to that, Barnoldswick Town Council had an issue with a feeder pillar coming off of electric main, not having power on Gisborne Road. Northern Power Grid weren't able to sort of reconnect that, so several Christmas trees are out. Not the end of the world, but if we could just add that one in as well. So we've got Dale Street, Alder Hill Street, Alder Hill Street, and Hollins Road. There's a question mark about possibly one on Monkroyd as well, which is in the same vicinity, and then the feeder pillar on Gisborne Road. So if we could take that up with Northern Power Grid, and last time we took issues up with them, that came along and showed us a widget. I can't remember what it was called. But
that was amazing.
It was amazing. David, it was before your time.
Yeah.
It was so amazing. They went on about it for about 3/4 of an hour. and it was like this little gadget.
But they brought the gadgets with them,
Yeah.
with different people to explain how the different bits
Yeah,
work.
it was wonderful.
We just
Right.
need them to work.
Move swiftly on. And we have already covered this really, but to consider Lancashire County Council renewal of traffic regulation order markings. This is the issue on Station Road. So I think, you know, we sort of said about the disabled parking bay on the previous item. I think we just need to send a rocket the Lancashire County Council's stupidity in, you know, putting new markings down when they're going to change the traffic regulation order and have different markings is absolutely crackers, especially when they plead poverty and they say that they can't renew street lights. Oh, sorry, Joanne, can I just look back to the previous one? The supply failures, the street lights being out. Can I add on the Lowmore Lane and Back James Street? I think it's a Lancashire County Council issue rather than Northern Power Grid, but yeah. Okay. Galloping. So traffic regulation orders, we want to complain, yeah? We okay with that?
Yes.
Come on.
Yep.
Right. F. To consider naming the unnamed side street to the rear of Bonalswick's Town Square. And this is where the County Council have invented the name Albert Square for, you know, like a 100-foot long piece of back street. And this hasn't gone down too well because of the east endification of Bonalswick. Somebody did suggest earlier on that we should make a bobber out of it and ask them to come and film EastEnders here rather than down in smoke.
Talbot Square.
Yeah, and Talbot Square. I thought that was a good one. But we've always, since we created the town square for the last 30 odd years, we've always called it Backett Square. So, you know, that's another suggestion. And somebody wanted to reference Rag Albert, and I can see people's eyes glazing over, but Rag Albert was a real character, you know, who used to go around, Ragbone, and so it was called Rag Albert. So we could riff on Rag Albert, you know, it could be Rag Albert Road or something like that. But in the first instance, I think we want to go to the County Council and say, Lancashire County Council, you have no right to name our streets. It's a district council responsibility. You've invented this name. You've upset at least some people, and sod off. So if we
Sod
could,
off Square.
Joanne, if you could count that in diplomatic language, that would be
So you haven't
lovely.
got to replace it?
Well, I think once we've got Lancashire County Council accepting that they shouldn't have named the street, that we would then consider what the alternative options are. It could just remain an unnamed side street, you know, a little forlorn orphan of a street.
Oh,
The street we know
the
Yeah.
street we know.
And 13G, to consider street names for the development at Long Inn. So this is a function of ward councillors, and it's in Evie and Coates ward, but given that it's a significant development and it's on the boundary between Coates ward, Evie and Coates ward and Bonalswick, we've had some consultation between colleagues across the two wards, and immediately prior to this meeting we came up with a series of suggestions which the colours won't mean anything to you, but they refer to the colours on the developer's map.
Oh,
Alright.
yeah.
So for the area shaded in blue, we are suggesting Little Cut Close.
Yeah.
For the lane
Must be focused.
that goes up to Barnsley Farm, we are suggesting Barnsley Lane, and Barnsley with an E
Yeah.
is the 1826 spelling rather than Barnsley, which might be slightly confusing, but that's how it's been used. But going back to 1826, it was Barnsley.
Yeah, that's the red one.
For the green area, the suggestion is Rainhall Rock Road. Susan's alliteration there. For the area shaded in puce, the suggestion is Watershed Way, and that's because it's literally on the watershed, so it references that. And then for the area, there's just a few houses which are right on the boggy bit, the bit that is going to end up getting flooded because the flood alleviation work will not be adequate. And I've put that on record that this area will flood.
Springboard with it.
Well, freeboard, but we've got two suggestions. Our preference would be Bowker Bottoms, which is a reference to the Bowker Drain, which before the canal used to drain the area, or Bagshaw Bottoms, and that's Bagshaw from the landowner prior to when the canal was built, who ended up in a very lengthy legal dispute with the canal company about a bit of land that they took further on. Have I written that all down right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that agrees with
Are we
the
happy?
landlord down.
Happy to do that one? Yeah?
Chris?
Yeah? Okay. So
Yes.
we can resolve that in the minutes, but strictly it's David, Susan and I
Yeah.
that would agree to that because it's vested in the ward councillors.
So you respond.
I'll tell Neil.
Yeah.
But, yeah. Have we got a H or is that it?
No.
Okay, I'm sure there's something I've forgotten. But item 14 is excluded the public because of the confidential nature of the act of business to be discussed. And this is outstanding enforcement and problem sites. I'm going to walk around and turn the live stream off. Can I thank everybody that's watched this live or in the future? Thank you very much for taking part. And wish you good night. Pardon? We do need to vote on it, but we can vote when I'm walking. Right, all those in favour of that, please show. Thank you very much. So that's carried. And here I am, hoping that you will not be able to reconnect, your stream will stop. I think we really